it's me you die. Rely on yourself in a way. Believe.
Good morning, everybody. It's a Thursday. I know if you're like me, you keep track of days very weirdly. So I have to say it out loud so I remember. It's a long week, but the weekend's going to be good. Hopefully today will do something for you. This topic came to my mind at his behest, is the only way I could think about it because I don't go out of my way to think of topics. And as soon as it did, there were so many other um, things that popped up that exemplified what he was trying to tell me about it. And hopefully, some who have had questions about this particular verse will get a little bit of clarity. Don't know. I know that I can say it, and you can take it, and you can take it back to him, and he'll verify and or not verify or clarify for you. So we're gonna kick off with. We had spoken to about the cloud of witnesses a couple of weeks ago, and this verse is part of it, and it's in Hebrews 12. Therefore, we also, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and sin which so easily ensnares us, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. For me, anyway, this ensnares or entangles or besets was a hang up for a long time for me. And I didn't know what exactly that it felt like it was out of place. But then when he gave me the topic, he also dropped um, another verse, which was in Corinthians. And that one made it make more sense to me. Because if he says that it's so easy to beset us or to overtake you, but we're supposed to set it aside, it it almost felt like it was an impossibility. How can I have something that is needing to be set aside, but it's easy to ensnare me in? It seems like an uphill battle until Corinthians 10. So in First Corinthians 10, it's we'll go from verse 11. Now all these things happened to them as examples, and they were written for our admonition, upon whom the ends of the ages have come. Therefore, let him who thinks he stands take heed lest he fall. No temptation has overtaken you except such as is common to man, but God is faithful, who will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you are able, but with the temptation will also make a way of escape that you may be able to bear it. So it had me thinking, what about mankind keeps us stuck on the easily beset and the temptation? And keeps diverting the answer when it says makes a way of escape and to let go. It says lay aside every weight and the sin. We focus somehow on the easily ensnares. And then we go straight to running the race, the work aspect of heavy lifting. So let me ask you, which one is harder, laying something aside or running? Then also, which one is easier to do, running with weights or running without? I have grown up in the church, and I can tell you firsthand that there is an inundation of preaching about the troubles, 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 troubles. Everything has been about troubles. You're struggling this and you're struggling that. Almost every message is about the struggle. Very little is about the victory in the person who doesn't struggle. And mind you, I'm not saying that we don't with certain things, but I am saying that we don't have to. And here's the thing. So I was going to get to this here, but I'm glad you brought this up, Arlene. How much can a believer bear? How much can you bear? Who decides how much you can bear? And do we sometimes give up before we can actually get to the end of our bearing? And then say, oh, God didn't make a way out? Or did we not participate in a life that can bear everything and then say, oh, God didn't show up? Because we do that a lot. I can tell you, I have done that a lot. Where I'm struggling with something and my way out is not a way out of the problem. My way out is focusing on Him and having Him deal with the problem. I keep trying to find a way out of the problem for myself. And when it fails, God didn't show up. We do this all the time. Now, we all know with this whole gay agenda going on, the concept is now that I'm born that way and there is no way for me to avoid it. And God's just going to have to accept it because He made me this way. Heck, I even heard a preacher recently speaking in a video that Earl sent me. And I will be addressing his entire, I might do a full reaction to it, both the first and second part, probably either tomorrow or the next week. But equating sin, an actionable thing, to being born with an ailment and inactionable. Because the earth is fallen. So, what makes it impossible for someone to be born gay? One of the most asinine, insane, stupid statements a so called educated human can make. Because they know children that have had that tendency with no influence whatsoever. Blatant rape, outright lie. But hey, if you feel like believing that, believe it. But we take that approach to stay beset. We will often take the approach that I can't avoid something, or I can't stop, or it's impossible. This is just how I am, in order to negate the fact that God said that he will make a way out of everything. Now, I am not speaking to an unbeliever. This is not about an unbeliever fighting their life struggles. You do not get to participate in the victory outside of the victor. It doesn't happen. You may get some assistance once in a while because he cares enough. Rain falls on the just and the unjust. But you cannot participate in his power without his promise. You can't. It is impossible. It is impossible. It's the same reason why believers today have a hard time letting go of something. Their mind refuses to let go of the fact that it is indeed possible for them to conquer something in Christ, as opposed to asking God for help. We have yet to understand the releasing of something to him versus holding on and asking him to help. Sin is not like a broken toy. Sin is not like a puzzle. Sin is not like shoelaces that a kid can't tie, and it's not like a little belt loop. It is nothing like that. Sin has to be handed off. Sin has to be casted. It has to be given to the one who can bear, handle, destroy, and control. What we like to do, though, is hold on to things that we think we're good enough to handle. And when we fail, God didn't show up. Or we ask, why? 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 It is not like my child coming to me and needing his shoelaces tied after he got his shoes on. It is more akin to my child putting on a shoe that I told him not to put on, a raggedy old shoe, then coming to me to want me to tie the shoe to make it look good. When I told him specifically, do not put on those shoes. Then he comes to me to get the shoe fixed. It will not be fixed because that's a horrible shoe. Take off the shoe. I can't take off the shoe. Come. Sit. Lean back. Don't do anything. Give me your foot. And he removes the shoe, tosses it away, picks up the shoe he wants to give us, puts it on our feet. Now, mind you, the shoe is a little bit new. It's a new feel. You're used to your old shoe. Your old shoe is nice in your mind because it fits. I can just slip it on. The only problem I have is the lacing, but I can get past that because someone can help me with it. You get up as a child, start walking in your new shoes, and you realize pretty quickly that the new shoes doesn't fit right. It's too new. It has to be broken in, but you don't feel like taking the time to break it in. So you get up. I remember you said you couldn't take off the old shoe. This was the reason you couldn't take it off. So Pops had to help you with the shoe off. You get up, go to where he tossed the shoe, pick up the shoe, take off the new shoes and go put on the old shoes. Then, when you step outside and it's raining, you cannot walk in the rain because of all the holes in your shoe. And you go right back inside and you say, "Oh, no, I can't go outside, God. Look, it's raining and my feet are getting wet." And then he looks down and it's like, "Why why you got on those shoes?" The other shoes didn't fit right, that they were tight or they just felt weird. I couldn't walk properly in them. And yeah, because you got to take time to break them in. They're new to you. This is all new. But when you go outside, your feet will be dry because they're not old shoes. But now you're coming to God to complain that your feet are wet. Why are my feet wet? I was wearing shoes. He told you to put off the stuff that will cause you to be set by sin. Yet you either keep it or you go back and get it. If you know anything about new shoes, and there's a reason why I'm using shoes as my analogy, I'll tell you in a minute. If you know anything about new shoes, when you try them on at the store and they fit and you walk in them, some feel very comfy and right off the top feel fine. Others take some time to break in. Some of them take up to a week of constant wearing to form to your feet, for the cushion on the inside to form to the base of your foot, to widen on the outside, to stretch the lacing a little bit, get the lip of the shoe. Everything takes time to spread out to your feet. And if you don't take that time, you will want to go back to the familiar and the comfortable and the one that you know, even though it's busted and worthless, you still go back to it. But you also go back to the complaining about it because you know it doesn't work, but you use it anyway. But a new pair of shoes, as uncomfortable as it is in the beginning, will be better for you in the long run. The reason I use shoes is because he's asking you to walk a certain path. And on that path, you cannot be walking it with the old stuff you have. You can't. You can't be walking it with that. He's also asking you to run. The problem with running is that if the shoes are torn and ripped, they'll fall right off your feet. Right off your feet as you're running, causing injury, cuts, bruises, falling. But when God gives you something and tells you this will help in doing what is necessary, don't go back and tell him, well, I get that, but what about if I just use what I have? The reason why we can't get past our own troubles is because we don't look at what happened to the older heads before us. Really, it is. Because if you look back in Hebrews, Okay. And we start at verse 30 in chapter 11. You will see something weird, but cool. By faith, the walls of Jericho fell down after they were encircled for 7 days. Now, like I said, words vital to the understanding of this book we call the Bible. Words. We keep attributing the shouting. Faith is what did it. The following through of what he said to do is what caused the walls to fall. Not the shouting, not the vibration. God caused it to fall because he already planned for it to fall, providing their obedience. By faith, the harlot Rahab did not perish with those who did not believe when she had received the spies with peace. And what more shall I say? For the time would fail me to tell of Gideon, Barak, Samson, Japheth, David, Samuel, and the prophets, who through faith subdued kingdoms, worked righteousness, obtained promises, stopped the mouths of lions, quenched the violence of fire, escaped the edge of the sword, out of weakness were made strong, became vigilant in battle, turned to flight the enemy, the armies of aliens. Women received their dead raised to life again. Others were tortured, not accepting deliverance that they may obtain a better resurrection. We'll talk about that better resurrection thing at 1.2. Keep that in mind. Still, others had a trial of mockings and scourgings, yet, yes, and of chains and imprisonment. They were stoned, they were sawn in two, tempted, were slain with the sword. They wandered about in sheepskins, goatskins, being destitute, afflicted, tormented, of whom the world was not worthy. They wandered in deserts and mountains and dens and caves on the earth. All of these, having obtained a good testimony through faith, did not receive the promise. God having provided something better for us, that they should not be made perfect apart from us. People who want to live in the Old Testament don't understand the value of the New. All these people dwelling in the Old don't see it for what it really was. What the Old Testament was, what the men went through back then, was only a shadow of what Christ fully did. And what we live in today, they would be envious of. We keep talking about how we would be envious of living, but we're envious and we wish we lived back then when we could hear the voice of God directly and all this stuff. And but we see all these miracles. They saw all those miracles and they look at us. They didn't receive any of the promise we got. They didn't get to witness the aftermath of Jesus. They didn't get to. They didn't get. They heard about him coming, never saw him, and did not have to live through and get to live through the promise fulfilled. Yet are the ones, they're the ones that Hebrews was talking about. After mentioning all of that, It said to lay aside every weight and sin that ensnares us and run the race, looking to Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith. This is not about what you can accomplish. This is not about your skill set. This is not about your prowess. All that could go out the window. I don't care if you're the most verbose person, the most educated. I don't care. If he calls you to shut up, that's a trial, by the way, for many who do this a lot. It's a trial. That's their new shoe. That is their new shoe. For some who are always like this, though, this is their new shoe. We have these treasures in earthen vessels. We are yet to understand that when God says to move, he's already plotted the course. When you ever seen marathon runners? Marathon runners, and I'm talking about like 20, 30, 40 miles running. They don't just take off and have the rest of the crew follow them. The entire course is laid out. There's water stops on the way. There are people cheering them on at every stop. There are vehicles riding alongside them in case of emergency. And there are people waiting at the finish line for them. The road was pre-made and pre-paved for the runner. The runner isn't doing this alone. He might be running by himself, but he's not alone. It's not an uncharted course. It's fully plotted out, fully planned, prepped. There are going to be stretches where you have to push through some anxiety and push through some stress and push through some fatigue. But there are rest stops. But it's already laid out. But you wouldn't know that if you never started running. For fear that it's a whole new, brand new thing. I won't know what I'm doing. You're allowing that sin to beset you. You know what that sin is? A lack of faith. You know what that sin is? Distrust. You know what that other sin is? The very original one, disobedience. You are unwilling to set that aside so you can run. You're unwilling. Just admit that you're unwilling. No sin has overtaken you except that which is common to man. But God will find a way out for you because he's already plotted that way out for you. He's already plotted it out. You already plotted it out. That's why nothing can overtake you. That is why nothing can overtake you. So, what does it come down to? It comes down to you telling God, listen carefully, you don't know what you're talking about. It comes down to telling God, you might think you know me, but you don't know me. It comes down to you telling God, what you think you can help me out, it comes down to you telling God, you are not capable of plotting out my life. I couldn't even do it. Who do you think you are? You think that's a little too brazen for me to assume? What do you think disobedience is? When your child tells you something to your face, like, let's say something really stupid. Let's go with the fulliest, the most stupid thing you could possibly think of a child could say. Let's see here. If you jump off of that 4 foot structure into that pile of wood, you're going to hurt yourself. And the child looks at you, mind you, child. We're not talking about an adult. We're talking about your child, 4 or 5 years old. And the child looks at you and says, what do you know? It's just wood. It's not that high. I know I can jump from here and be fine. And you look at the child and you say, listen, I may look like I'm old, but I've lived enough to know that that will kill you if you jump wrong. And at the least, it will hurt you. Don't do it. Child looks at you again and says, whatever, I'm going to do it. Then the child jumps. One of the pieces of wood runs right through their foot, scrapes up the side of their leg, punctures the arm, and they get up and they're like, oh, crying. And then who did they come to? You. After being belligerent and rude and condescending and mean, they come right back to you to heal all of their wounds and pain. That's modern Christianity for you. That's modern Christianity. Do anything I want, expect the forgiveness. Clean me up, God. Send me right back out. Whoop. Do my dumb stuff. Come back on a Sunday. Clean me up, God. Send me back out. Whoop. Clean me up, God. Send me back out. The only thing is, you're not getting cleaned up. You think you're getting cleaned up. But let me tell you something about God. When He cleans you up, He cleans you up. You have to allow Him to clean you up, though. Anytime you find yourself going back to something, you probably didn't get cleaned up. You probably held on to something. Or at the least, you were dumb enough to not appreciate the cleaning. Do what I want. Come back on Sunday, act like I didn't. Boop, boop, doot, 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 doot. Go do what I want. Come back and boop, doot, 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 doot. Go do what I want. Praising with the tambourine, praising with the tambourine, and then you act like, man, I'm just so happy to be going to church. And then you go back Sunday and Monday through Friday through Saturday, all kinds of crazy stuff. And then you come back Sunday and you get your praise on. Preacher telling you about giving you money and God gonna bless you and all that stuff that makes you feel real good. And you go out in the week and you struggle, wonder why. Come back on Sunday, say, oh, it's because of it. Oh, good, okay. Then you why? They don't put aside that weight. They carry it. And now it became so familiar with them that anything that happens within that toxic cycle that's good, they attribute it to God. And it's not. It's not. In fact, I would dare say it is a vice of the evil one to keep you in that cycle, giving you the false pretense that what goodness you feel is of God. It's not. It's not. The devil will make you feel like what you're doing is a good thing as long as you're wasting time. He will be happy to see you waste time and spin your wheels and go back and pick up the old shoes. He is happy to do that. He loves seeing that because he knows you're not moving. But he will make you think that you're doing all kinds of wonderful things. It's insane. When we do that, you're only really harming yourself because in time, God will just go find somebody else to do his work. And in some cases, he might pull a Jonah on you. He'll just keep coming at you until you listen. Sometimes he lets you go the Samson route and imprison yourself. And on your last final stroke of breath, you finally do the right thing. There are many examples in the book. There are many. But when you don't hand off the basic controls to God, you end up using the controls and you will never, ever, ever see God's hand in your life. You won't because he's not there. It's not that he doesn't want to, he's just not there. He's not in that. Do you remember when Elijah was waiting in that cave till he heard the voice of God in Kings? Do you remember that fully? I'll read it to you. In 1 Kings 19. In fact, let me bring it up here for you. We'll start at verse 7, okay? And the angel of the Lord came a second time and touched him and said, "Arise and eat, because the journey is too great for thee." He rose and ate and drank. Notice how quickly he just did it. And went and in the strength of that meat 40 days, 40 nights unto Horeb, the mount of God. Same place that Moses, remember? Okay. And he came thither unto a camp and lodged there. And behold, the word of the Lord came to him, and he said unto him, "What doest thou here, Elijah?" And he said, "I have been very jealous for the Lord of God of hosts, For the children of Israel have forsaken thy covenant, thrown down thy altars, and slain the prophets with the sword, and I, even I only, am left, and they seek my life to take it away. Hmm. And he said, Go forth and stand upon the mount before the Lord. And behold, the Lord passed by, and a great and strong wind rent the mountains and brake in pieces the rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, a still small voice. And it was so, when Elijah heard it, that he wrapped his face in his mantle and went out and stood before the entering of the cave. And behold, there came a voice unto him and said, What doest thou here, Elijah? It is an insane thing when you are seeking his face. And when you seek his face, you will also seek his voice, and you will know his voice. Our problem is that when he says what he has to say, though, we may not like it. We want to do something else. Um, do you think it's possible to have an overwhelming desire to let something or someone go, and it's really not God telling you to do it? Um, an overwhelming desire. I can't I can't say either way because I don't know what that desire feels like, nor do I know the circumstances behind it. However, I can say this: not doing anything is better than acting without full knowledge. And leaving it for God to remove the person as opposed to you removing them is also a very good approach. See, when you tell him outright, if this is supposed to be gone, take it. If it's not, let it stay. Bam. And you leave it alone. You let it be. You focus on what you're supposed to be doing. You focus on what you're supposed to be doing. Too many times we want to try and do things for God, on behalf of God, without God. You can't expect his results without his input. You can't expect his result without his input. You simply can't. It's 1 Corinthians 10:13, by the way, baby maker. Everybody wants a godly result without godly input. I don't understand how we expect that. I don't know how we can expect that. Stop expecting the impossible. Stop expecting the impossible. Um, nope, I don't know yet. Don't know tomorrow yet. what that's going to be. Like I said, it's either going to be my response to the video that Earl sent, but it's either going to be tomorrow or Monday. I don't know which one yet. Um, like I said, I just kind of wait. When he drops, he drops. If he doesn't, he doesn't. Um, and for those of you in the comment section that I think I did not notice in a certain individual, I did. I just chose not to address it this morning, which is good for me because I normally do. Um, sometimes it's just better. Sometimes he points out the ones I should and the ones I shouldn't, and this one I shouldn't have. So I'm getting better at listening. Yay me. Of course, no Savage tonight. Um, topic for Too Strong still hasn't been picked out yet. Um, don't know about the mix yet either. But as for this topic today, I ask you to do one thing above all other things. One thing. I wish, hey, I wish I could suggest somebody. I can't anymore. I don't even know who. I honestly don't know. True worship is so lost anymore. I don't know. I don't know. The best I could tell you is to um, spend some time in the Psalms. Just spend some time in the Psalms. Make your own song based on the Psalms. There's plenty of scripture out there that speaks about who God is and what He is. That you can just hum your own tune. There are some old hymns that are good. Sing to yourself. There might be one or two songs out there that, you know, but man, they're so far and few between. It's insane. Yeah, I'm actually recording one today. Um, so just look for that, but I have to fix it up this weekend. So Vineyard used to have a really good set. Um, Vineyard Vineyard music way back in like the I say way back um in the 90s, early 2000s. Vineyard was big, and Vineyard had some really scripturally sound songs, and they had some really good um worship music. So if I were to tell you to look for anything, look for Vineyard music or Maranatha, early Maranatha. We're not talking about the later stuff, early stuff. The early stuff is really good. So Vineyard and Maranatha are the only two I think are left. Um, back in the day ones, not today. If you're looking for something nice, something good, something clear, concise, scriptural, those are the ones I'd go back to. In any case, your guys' time is very appreciated, like really appreciated. Um, hopefully, you guys have a good weekend. I know we still have one more day, but in case he doesn't give me something to talk about tomorrow, have a good weekend. And if he doesn't, I'll see you in the morning. Either way, check back and see noon Eastern if I'm here. Um, tomorrow, We'll have one episode of Savage, and don't forget that Saturday we have our special episode on Rumble. So don't miss those. Because Saturday will be, like I said, it's a cautionary one on Saturday. Very cautionary for all involved. Same time as normal Savage Patriots, 6:30 Eastern p.m. Scrolling down below, I had heard about them. And I have not checked them out yet. Scrolling down below are, of course, the options again. Take it to him, figure it out with him, and decide what needs to be done. And above all else, set aside and listen. Set it aside and listen. It's vital that you make this walk with him, because if you're not walking. You are waiting for the vultures. So don't wait for vultures. Put on them new shoes and run. Book it. In the meantime and in between time, we will catch up later. Wisdom calls to you from the streets. Please, please, please find wisdom. Peace.
Hold tight, dreams, for if dreams die.